Hi, and welcome to Equine Business Edge, the podcast for horse professionals who want to build a stronger, more profitable business without losing their passion for the horse industry. I'm your host, Jamie Birch, entrepreneur, horseman, and founder of EquineRevShare.com. Each episode, we dive into real-world business strategies, marketing, system, mindset, leadership, growth ideas, specifically for trainers, instructors, clinicians, barn owners, and equine entrepreneurs. This podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by EquineRevShare.com, a platform that helps horse professionals earn commissions from the products they already know, use, and recommend every day in one simple click. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, this is Jamie with the Equine Business Edge Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And the phone rings. There we go. Leave me alone, people. Okay, let's get to it. This is the Equine Business Edge Podcast. I'm Jamie Birch, your host. This is sponsored and brought to you by EquineRevShare.com. If you are a horse professional, you make money on the back of or around horses, you probably tell a lot of people what they should buy, and most likely you're not getting credit for it. You're not getting any compensation for that knowledge, that referral, and that influence. At EquineRevShare.com, we make sure that changes. It's a simple one-step setup and sign up. It is free, and you get paid out of commission when your link generates a sale. So go check it out. EquineRevShare.com. So last week, as I was preparing to show my horse, I did a 60-second business lesson on don't hire your friends. If you haven't seen that on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, I think I even put it on LinkedIn, then definitely go check that out. We were driving and my wife asked this question. And I tell you what, you probably can see and can guess, I have not had a lot of success hiring friends. Now, I have hired a lot of friends. Most of them were incredibly smart, very talented individuals, hardworking, and people I trusted completely. Now, if you are one of my employees listening to this, and we used to be friends before I hired you, and that's not been the case since, know that I miss that about us. I do miss our friendship. Not always interested in rekindling things, but I do miss that time. You were a big part of my life, and by no means am I blaming my former friends and former employees for these things. There is one thing in common with all of these stories and all of these hires and all of these lessons, and that is me. I hired those people. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, because the lesson I learned here, it turned out to be a very expensive one. Some of it was expensive in losing clients and revenue. Some was expensive in losing employees and culture and progress. But a lot of it was I lost a lot of good friends. And that's what happens when you have to fire a friend. It is really hard for them to want to remain your friend. There are always, three stories to how things go down, your side, their side, and what really happened. And it's very hard to reconcile that. I don't blame any of them for that, but it is a tough thing to do. So I look back at these situations, and it was really me. There were many people in many of these situations that told me that this was a bad idea. So let's kind of dive into some of these. I think the biggest lesson I learned was trust is not the same thing as fit. I trust this person saying that. It feels really good to trust an employee. In a lot of ways, you feel like you are at war. You're in the foxhole. And we use, sport analogies. We use war analogies when we're describing what it's like to build a business. We do that all the time. And there's a reason, because, sometimes it can really, really feel that way. So it's not weird to do that. And so you do want someone you trust by your side. Hold on, I gotta move the camera. It's bouncing. Table. Got a little way. Started that. All right, I am back. So this is probably one of the common threads through most of my hiring of friends. Now, I felt I trust this person. They're going to be in the foxhole with me. We're going to do this together. I always know they have my back. I can't tell you how many times I've actually said, they have my back. But I trust this person, and this is the right person for the job. These aren't remotely the same thing. I've hired these friends because I knew their character. I thought I did. I've hired people because we'd known each other forever. I hired people because I knew and I felt that they wouldn't screw me over. And I've hired people because they were available when I desperately needed somebody. And I always thought, I know this person, this feels safe. But none of those are job qualifications. Trust doesn't matter when somebody has, it doesn't mean that somebody has a skill, temperament, ambition, judgment, or leadership ability required for a particular seat on the bus. So sometimes, familiarity actually prevents you from asking the questions, you'd ask another candidate. What I learned about myself is that I trust them that really makes me feel safe. This is probably, I'll tell you what, I probably didn't realize this until much, much later. I probably think my parents and my wife, both very involved in my businesses, probably saw that a really long time ago. And it's probably one of the harder things for me to recognize. There were periods, when I didn't necessarily hire the best person I could find. I was hiring someone that I felt comfortable leading. And that is a huge difference. You always say, and you always hear people say, and I've said this, you want to hire smarter people than you, but there's a cost to hiring smarter people. You're going to be challenged in your leadership. You're going to need to step up in that leadership. And that can be really hard to do. I continue to have. It can be very, very hard to do to bring on people who are going to challenge you. So one thing I've said about business and running a business, it is the crucible of self-awareness, because you're going to learn by leading people and leading an organization. You're going to learn so much more about yourself than about all these other people. And, that you have to understand those things about yourself when you're leading an organization, especially when you're bringing on friends. Now, I hired one of my best friends of my whole life. I actually hired this person twice. The first time, he didn't have a job, didn't have a career. I was at another company and I needed someone to be my, assistant affiliate manager. I brought him in, and he did a really good job. I left that company to start my own. So shortly thereafter, I brought that person along as well. Now, we grew up from college. So we partied together, did stupid things together. His family knew me as kind of the dumbass in college. That's how they related to me. And it's really hard to work with someone you've been that close to and shift from, idiot 20-year-olds to buttoned up, polished businessmen. And so that, that was a lesson I also learned, is because people need something that isn't a reason to hire. So, but I actually hired this person twice. I had to let this person go. And really what it was there wasn't the respect for the position and the job and the company within the entire family that there should be. I think the family struggled to have this person away 40 hours a week. I really think there was a lack of respect for the company and for me. And, I'm not blaming anyone else. This is what happens when you have friends that you do all this stuff with. It's very hard for the people around the employee to treat you as the boss and the position with the respect that it should deserve. At the same time, you're still living in relationship with each other. And our lives were really intertwined, very much intertwined. We had dinner groups together, church together. We did quite a bit together. So we definitely didn't start with the end in mind. We didn't look at that and go, okay, if we have to part ways, how are we going to do this and retain our friendship? We never had that conversation. And in the end, I felt completely disrespected, felt the work wasn't getting done. The hours weren't putting in. We were, it really came down to, I figured I trained this person. He's seen me work, and I need them to be my mini me, and they weren't. And so I had to let him go. And that was really difficult. We have been through a lot as friends, and we're very, very tight. And that was one of the most tough days I've ever had, is to do that. And it took us a couple of years to be able to get back and have conversations with each other. And we slowly did that. He entered back into the industry. And then we were going through the companies, your organization is going to ebb and flow. You're going to go through different stages. And we were really in a stage that I needed people that I could trust, and that were hardworking and could come in and do the job. And really, I thought, everything I knew, I taught this individual. He started under me, evolved under me, grew under me. And so I figured, he's going to basically be a mini me. I needed someone to operate the way that I operated. So in my mind, let's bring him back. This was perfect. And we sat down and had conversations about what happened last time. And here's the thing, I felt, and maybe he did too, that we had a really good conversation and talked about the issues. And even now, I still think we had a good conversation. We came back into the relationship together as employee and employer. I think really discussing things, and I felt, all right, this is going to work really well, because we did talk about the end in mind. We did talk about the struggles and the other things that happened, and that's not going to happen again. But what I needed was not who he is. It's just not. And that's not his fault. That was me looking past and not being really critical of what I needed for our organization. And I really needed someone to do the things that I would do. But, one thing I've had to learn is, as entrepreneurs, we tend to not think we're anything special. Like, we just think, well, you should do this too, or you can do this too. But we are different. We're the ones who took the risk. Not everyone wants to do that. So in my head, let's bring this person back. We've been kind of refined through obstacles and conflict. We've been able to come back together. Our families, we live, frankly, in different states. Our families are not intertwined. There's not that risk, because the first time, some of the biggest problems with hiring your employees is, if you're really tied in relationship with them and your whole family is, when that leaves, that's a big hole. That's huge, and it sucks. But we felt like, well, that's not how we live anymore. Our families aren't tied together. It's really just he and I. And I wanted him to be me, and he wasn't me, but that was my expectation. And that's kind of when I realized I was hiring people who were safe for me to lead, and not people who were smarter than me, better than me, different than me, and maybe more ambitious and able to do things that I couldn't do. Because I'll be honest, sometimes those people intimidated me. I knew that if I hired these people, that I would be taking a risk, that I would have to level up, and I would need to become a better leader. Those people might question me. They might see things I didn't. They're going to require more of me. But hiring somebody familiar, it felt safer. There was a dynamic I could manipulate in that relationship as well. There were definitely things the employees who were friends took advantage of, and there were definitely things I took advantage of. And you can't do that with someone necessarily that you're not friends with. So hiring someone who feels safe, and you're probably thinking, and maybe you've done this feels safe. That's a terrible reason to make a hiring decision. And um, as our leadership team was realizing this isn't the right fit. He's a great guy, wonderful father, great human being, just not the right fit to take the company where we need to go and take that department. He quit. And it, then I saw a lot of social media from his family kind of bad mouthing me. It seemed I became the villain in the story, and that really hurt. I always felt I did right by all my employees. And that's one thing I learned. If you listen to Clinton Anderson, he talks about it doesn't matter what you do for your employees. He went through this process, as did I. We did a ton team building, and we had an amazing PTO and maternity and paternity plans for our company, our staff. Every baby that was born, we paid for house cleaning for a month. We had dinners delivered. We did a lot. And in the end, you're the employer, and you most likely will be the villain in the story when they leave. So that's, I had to learn I was hiring people that made me feel safe and comfortable, not people who would challenge me and push me forward. Maybe that's not you, but maybe you are hiring people who are safe. That's why you're bringing on a friend. But friendship makes accountability really, really messy. So that's another problem. When an employee misses expectations, you're the boss. That's it. When your friend misses expectations, suddenly you're navigating two relationships simultaneously: your friendship and the employee-employer relationship. And I screwed this up from both directions. Sometimes I tolerated things from friends that I would never tolerate it from another employee. Other times, because I trusted them so much, I expected so much more from them than I probably would have expected from another employee. And neither of those is fair. The employee gets special treatment, because they're your friend. I tried not to do that, but I think it was really hard not to. I definitely allowed poor performance to continue way longer than it should, because I didn't want to lose the friendship. I didn't want to impact the friendship. I've given employees responsibility because they were close to me, not because they deserved it. And sometimes that causes a lot of problems because people can see in your company. One of the things I struggled with almost all of these hires, especially when we knew the family, is how the family saw the company. There wasn't a reverence for the job. Not that there needs to be, but there was no respect for what we did. And that's what happened in that first relationship, because we have responsibility to make payroll. I'm trying to build a company. The family saw me as a buddy and a drinking partner at times, but I'm trying to make payroll. I'm responsible for the clients. I'm responsible for dozens of other people's livelihoods. And sometimes we need to work late. Sometimes we need to cancel something to make sure that happens. Sometimes we need to talk about poor performance. But those people surrounding the relationships really struggle. And when those people struggle, like, you can do amazing things when the people in your life support you. Like, you can literally move mountains. But when that doesn't happen and you lose that support at home, man, that really becomes a struggle. And those disagreements follow. And it's just don't do it. So I acquired a company, and so I'll talk. That's it was an acqui-hire. And this one cost me dearly. It cost me friendship. It cost me company culture. It cost me clients, and it cost me revenue. So I had a close friend, and we were like city mouse, country mouse, complete opposites in so many ways. Even our, physicality was different, but man, we got along so well. We were tight. We really enjoyed each other's company. Our friendship was very fun. He went through a period of extreme difficulty, and his business was struggling, and it was really going down the tubes. And I I wanted to say, I looked at this as an opportunity to add another service to our slate of things that we do. Really, I wanted to save this individual, partly and mostly because I really loved him and hated to see him struggle. And in my arrogance, I felt what I had and what I had built, um, that could, if we deployed that in his organization, and I taught him those ways, that would really change his business. And I still believe that would have done that. My arrogance was thinking that I could change him. And I can't tell you how many times I've hired people, whether they're friends or not, thinking this is a really good guy and I can change him. And the arrogance in that, it's not lost on me. It was really, really stupid. So I bought that business. I brought his business in to mine. Everyone who loved me, everyone who's close to me thought that was a terrible idea. And they were completely right. What I didn't recognize was where we were different. And I saw that as a strength. There were philosophical differences that we couldn't get past. And those were big things on how you work, work ethic, those types of things, and how you treat people. So I didn't realize, I thought I was arrogant in thinking I could save him and we could bring him on, but we were so philosophically different. And it's really hard. And I understand this. I know that it's really hard to be a business owner and then go work for someone else. I've been a business owner for 25 years. I think I'd be the worst employee ever. I would do it if that ever became a need, but it'd be a difficult transition for me. And so it can be hard. Now he had to come in and be an employee. And those are completely different roles, right? I was in authority because I'm the owner. I bought him. I'm the leader of the company, but he really struggled with that authority. He struggled with that leadership. And then I don't even know if he realizes he was doing this, but confidential conversations didn't remain confidential. Things we talked about in our leadership meetings filtered out into the staff. Ideas and things we were processing through, in the end, never did. Were told to employees. And eventually I had to fire him, his entire team. It cost me tens of thousands of dollars. We lost clients. His team made an error. I was very process oriented. We did things our way. And he was more of a gunner, running and gunning, a gunslinger. And there's a time and a place for that. He was a phenomenal rainmaker like that. He could sell anything, was amazing public speaker. But processes were missed. A client lost several $100,000. But the money that was lost wasn't the worst part. People inside the company lost trust in the entire leadership. Really good employees left, and they're probably still telling stories of how much that sucked. And they're not wrong. We lost a large amount of organizational runway, had a very public failed acquisition. I thought, I was helping my friend. Instead, I was putting him in a role. He wasn't well suited, put my company at risk. So, compassion's not a hiring strategy. I was arrogant thinking that I could do anything in this situation, and keeping him from a failure that maybe he needed to have. And man, he was a really good friend. Again, the largest cost there was in relationships, our relationship, but also with so many really good employees. And they saw a really big leadership mistake, and they felt they weren't secure in that anymore. So they left. So we lost like almost 50% of our staff. And that really hurt our growth at that time. And that's, business owners don't always make really good employees. I felt that, they understand what we're going through. So they're maybe cut us some slack, but that's not it. So I just wouldn't do that again. And then like the other lesson is, you don't actually know your friend professionally. So I hired a couple people at different times of the organization that were in the space for a very long time. And we were friends, some of us for 20 years. And I loved them. I had so much fun with them. They were really great people, very unique personalities, very talented and skilled, and had done really great things. And this one is probably the most surprising, that you can know someone for years in a friendship, coworker, friend in the space environment, and have zero idea of what they're like in their personal life and what they're like as an employee. You have this vision that you've experienced with them. You know your friend, they were great. They've been very helpful and friendly, and you've just really vibed with them well for their entire career. And you're thinking, this will be a great fit. I know, love, and respect them. They know, love, and respect me. That doesn't mean you know jack shit about what they're like to work with, or that they know what you're like to work with. I have been told I can be quite intense. Many of them found that out. But you don't really know how they respond to authority, how they handle pressure, whether they meet deadlines or not, whether they gossip. Are they going to be a good cultural fit? Like, I know you're probably thinking, look, I only have 2 employees, or I don't plan to have many employees at all. How important is culture? Culture is everything. Culture is how your company grows forward. Culture is how you get time to do the great things that you want to do. And it's going to be what you're known for. So you don't really know if these people are going to maintain confidentiality, whether they're frankly emotionally stable enough when things become difficult. Do they accept feedback? How do they do that? Will they support decisions that they privately disagree with, but they're not going to tell you? Whether they'll do boring work when nobody is watching, or you may think you know somebody better than any candidate you've interviewed, but professionally, you may know them less. It really gave me, I had this huge blind spot. And looking back, I didn't interview them as well. I just figured they were, I use this word a lot, a known entity. I fought for so many hires that were a known entity that, I mean, I can't even, and I have, there are 3 relationships that few people I hired in the last 5 years. I was at my previous company before I sold it, that I wish I didn't hire them, not because they didn't do good work, or they quit, or I had to let them go, or we had a disagreement, but I cherished those friendships so much before, even like talking about it, like I miss them, and I miss those relationships. And um, you know, 2 of them, I just found that their work wasn't our way. And I didn't find that out until we were too far in. And one, I hired her because she was smarter than me. She did think uh, larger than I did. She did challenge me. And then when I stepped down, she felt that was a pretty big ding. And I sold, that was a big ding on her, how it looked, I think, publicly. And she is fantastic. And so, you don't know how people work, and how they react to things. And familiarity can create entitlement on both sides. These people, most likely been around your family. They know so many things happening in your life. They've watched the company grow. Maybe they know where the bodies are buried, and somewhere along the way, they kind of feel untouchable. And that's happened a couple times. I had employees that I hired that were great friends, and they felt they could do whatever they wanted. And I wasn't going to fire them because, you know what, we're heading out Friday for the weekend. Our families are going camping. So I don't have to really do what everyone else does. So you see productivity drop, drama increases, that living in proximity to the owner, that gives them power in the organization, then that creates ambiguity. As a leader, you have to set boundaries, and you can't allow them to disappear. We have an acquaintance of ours who had their best friend, they hired to do their accounting, and in the end, they embezzled from them. So you talk about taking liberties. They were flying first class on the same the same vacations they were going on with their employer, their friend, and they were using their money, the employer's money that they embezzled to fly that first class. So it creates this area of entitlement, but also from the employer, you can feel entitled to require more than you would have. And that's happened. That's happened a couple times. There's some real embarrassing stories I'm not going to share, but there are things I asked that, I wouldn't have asked employee. And so I said this before, the one lesson is the right hire may actually scare you. They may be more ambitious, more creative, a bigger thinker. And now I realize there's a lot of people I would have hired and they would have been phenomenal and my company would have been better. I wasn't threatened from like, I need to be the smartest guy in the room. I just knew that I had to step up and I wasn't confident in myself enough that I would. So, the other lesson is even when it works, you can still lose the friendship. Sometimes your friend's great at their job. Doesn't guarantee the friendship survives. Careers change, companies change, you change, they change. I've had really close friends go work for a competitor. That broke my heart. Like you talk about, like you don't want any employee to go to a competitor, right? You don't want your closest friend to go to a competitor. They know everything about you. Now that's a huge disadvantage. So, even when everything works out, you may lose that friendship. So now I actually know quite a few people who do hire their friends and it works out, well, or it has worked out so far well. It did not work for me. So after all these experiences, my rule isn't literally never hire a friend, but it's never allow friendship to be the reason you hire. A sub rule is if my wife has met this person, I talk about my wife a lot. She is the bigger brain in this marriage for sure. And she has been right on every single hire I've ever made. I mean, even when it's not a friend, she has been right. Every person because my wife and I worked together. She was in charge of HR and administration and accounting. And so she would do all the paperwork and she would leave meeting this new employee, whether it's a friend or not, and come out and just look at me like, this is going to be a good one or you're out of your mind. And every time on either side of that fence, she was 100% right. So I've really had to learn to lean on her and other people I trust in some of those decisions. So I have to always ask myself as well, like if I met this person yesterday, all I had was their resume experience and this interview, would I still hire them? If the answer is no, then I don't hire them. If the person wasn't my friend, will I tolerate what I'm tolerating now? And if the answer is no, then, I've got a problem. So here's what I would do today. If I was considering hire a friend, I wouldn't. Short answer, I just wouldn't. And here's the big thing. As we get older, friendships become harder to develop and harder to find, harder to cultivate. We all get really busy and go on with our lives. I don't want to lose a single one. And I have a close friend, and we have at many times, we have had the opportunity to do work together. And he's always said, we're not going to do that. And the first couple times I was like, is this a reflection on what he thinks of me? And it never was. He valued our friendship so much that no amount of money or business success was going to come in between our friendship. And that's probably the biggest thing I wish I held close back then, is that relationship is too important to ruin it with money. Once you sign the front of that check, every single thing changes. You sign that check, now you're no longer friend first. You are employer first. And that is huge. So I really wish that I did that. Now, I think we're pretty good at evaluating everyone with the same performance metrics, but we definitely let those people who are close to me run through those things, run through our performance improvement plans way, way longer. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. To close, I've lost money hiring friends. I've lost employees because I hired friends. I've lost clients because I've hired friends. I've damaged really healthy company cultures because I've hired friends. I've slowed the growth of my business because I've hired friends. But most of all, I've lost some relationships that were really important to me because I hired them. And that is probably the biggest lesson that I had. Not all of them were bad employees. Some were, but some weren't. Some were extraordinarily talented people, and they were just simply in the wrong seat on the wrong bus. But I felt we could manage it, and I wanted people who I could trust, who I felt comfortable with, and I wish I made different decisions now. So if you are thinking of hiring your friend as an employee, I would say it's an extraordinary person, an extraordinary organization that can do this well. I would talk to them about the end in mind up front, and then I would manage them like any other employee. And it's really hard to do. So I just won't do it. It took me a really long time to learn that. My wife's voice is always in my head. Don't do it. And I still, after all those, and there's been some, I don't know if I was able to express how difficult and heartbreaking some of these things and these decisions were, but all these people were amazing people. I miss them dearly. I miss the relationships we had dearly. I don't think either of us miss each other now, but I do miss what we had. And I wish I had done differently. So if you're thinking about that right now, I would say I would rather not hire a friend when it was the right decision than hire him when it wasn't, because it can make, you guys, you've had one bad client, right? You've had one bad client and your life sucks. Like you can really hate when you have one bad client. Have one bad employee that you're really close friends with, and it can go wrong very, very fast. So I would probably be really upfront with the end in mind. I would be upfront and discuss how are you going to handle conflict. I would talk about how you handle discipline, what your expectations are, and I'd probably write all those things out so everybody knows. Create a position agreement with them, and I did that with the employee I hired twice. We sat down and did that the second time, and it still didn't work out. So, but that's what I would do if you thought, man, Jamie, I really want to hire this person. They're an ideal fit. I would talk about those, what are your expectations? What is the job? And have it written down so you can say, hey, here's the job. What I want, my expectation from you is you're going to be real damn familiar with this. And I'm never going to have to tell you when you're slipping, because you're going to look at this every week and you're going to determine if you're slipping or not. Talk about how you're going to review performance, how you're going to handle compensation and raises and things like that, and how you're going to fire them when you have to fire them, so that they are aware of how that works up front. So anyway, these are just crazy lessons from 25 years running businesses. I hope that this gave you something to talk about. In the comments, let me know, have you had a success hiring friends and what made it successful? Share with me a disaster story and what you would have done different. If there's anything that really spoke to you in today's podcast, then point that out. Let me know what you found. Anyway, thank you so much. If you got to this point, thank you. Really wanted to share this because it was just a heartbreaking series of lessons for my wife and I to learn in running our businesses. And hopefully it will help you avoid some of that heartache that we had, because boy, firing your friends sucks. There's no easy way around it. It's awful. So anyway, this podcast is brought to you by EquineRevShare.com. One click and you earn a commission. So we created EquineRevShare.com to help the people who drive the most revenue in the equine industry are horse professionals. You're sharing with your clients what you use. You're also telling them what you need to help them accomplish their goals and what they need. So you're sending product links all the time, but you're having to go search from 10, 15 websites to find what you need. EquineRevShare aggregates all those retailers into one place and pays you a commission when a sale happens. So go check it out, EquineRevShare.com. It is free to join. It is not multi-level marketing. It is not a scam. I managed affiliate programs for Cabela's, Coldwater Creek, Hilton Hotels, Zappos, SmartPack, Princess Cruises, and so many others. This is legitimate. It's a great way to fill up your truck once a month, to add another stream of revenue without really adding another work. You're always trying to add more revenue and trying to get around to bringing in another horse or another client. Well, here's the way to do it. Go to EquineRevShare.com and check us out today. And if you love this podcast, if you could please give us a like and a rating, share this with your friends. If you see any of our clips on Facebook, please like, comment, and share. It really helps us get exposure for what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is help you build sustainable and profitable businesses, maybe even be able to take a vacation and get away from these dang horses. That's what we're trying to do. So please share, like, and give us a rating. That really helps us get this podcast out. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and hope this is helpful. Thanks for listening to this episode of Equine Business Edge. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this episode with another horse professional who could benefit from it. Word of mouth is how great businesses and great podcasts grow, and your support truly helps us reach more people in the horse industry. And this podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by EquineRevShare.com. EquineRevShare.com was built specifically for horse professionals, trainers, instructors, clinicians, boarding facilities, influencers, breeders, and all sorts of equine business owners who are already recommending products to clients every single day. Whether it's tack, supplements, grooming products, apparel, feed, training tools, or barn equipment, your clients are already asking what you use and trust. And we provide a way for you to make that happen, earn a commission, and all doing it the same way you do it right now. EquineRevShare helps you turn those recommendations into an additional income stream by giving you access to retail partnerships and easy-to-share product links from equine brands and retailers all over the world, all in one place. No complicated tech, no inventory, no awkward selling, just your cell phone. Just a simple way to get rewarded for the influence and trust you've already built in the horse industry. To learn more or get started, visit EquineRevShare.com. And thanks again for being here. We'll see you in the next episode of Equine Business Edge.